Hello Tesla Cats, this is Tesla-chan, or Lucy if you prefer, and welcome back to the garden. Now, I normally don't do a side-by-side comparison of redraws of characters, but Checkers happens to be one of those characters that I have redesigned in recent years. She was redesigned because I was kind of burnt out, and I just wanted to draw something I thought was going to be a lot more simple and easy, and it turned into a little bit more of a project when I did the secondary product. The first drawing you're going to see right here is the original design for Checkers, and her original design was meant to make it easier for me to draw as far as animations. Let me know if you want me to post a video of those animations down in the comments below, but as far as that is concerned, she does have a brand new design. Now, I have quite a few ideas for Checkers because somebody who I've recently become friends with through my boyfriend suggested that I should look into what her story should be and all of that stuff. So I'll get right into that right about now. Checkers Allursia, or Allurisa, age unknown. Her appearance does make her look like she's 20 in human years. Height 5 feet 6.5 inches. Weight 115 pounds. Species or race ethereal being. Her body may have belonged to a demon at one point or another. Appearance pink colored fur with a yellow checkered pattern on her face. Her yellow patches of fur accent the rest of it. She has a round circular head with two small horns, a set of blue-green eyes with glowing irises and pupils. Her mouth looks almost like a fanged jack-o'-lantern smile, and she has a vague dip in her face to indicate a nose slightly above that. She has hands and feet that resemble more paws than hands, and a short tail with 3 barbs on the tip of it. She typically wears a 2-piece dress that has a checkered pattern on it, with an orange and red laced collar. The top of the dress just sits off her shoulders and has wide baggy sleeves, while the skirt of the dress doesn't connect directly to the top. There's only a small gap between the two of them. The dress sits in the middle of her hips and is large and flowy, and it ends just around her knees. She has a small slit in the side that allows for her tail to come out. As a final note to her clothing, she wears a pair of boots that more resemble socks and are opened at the toes and heels, and they seem to have a minor set of ribbing along the joints. Not quite sure what the purpose was for that, whether that would be supportive or directive or protective, or just for show. The boots are a dark gray, and the ribbing and accents of the boots are a golden yellow. Her backstory. The Pantheon are a group of Eldritch Gods. One could almost call them demons. They live in the farthest edges of reality and are known by a menagerie of names, as none of their true names are speakable by mortal tongue. The Eldritch tongues are only ever uttered in their world, and with only one name in the Pantheon known in every language. That name, of course, is the name of the conglomerate of Eldritch deities and its head god, Pantheon. He is the main creator god in the Pantheon, and his greatest joy is to watch his creations build, imagine, and dream. What they dreamed about he cared not. It was this laissez-faire attitude towards their dreams and the development of worlds that allowed Checkers to be born. Although typically dangerous for a Pantheon to be awake while all gods were present, he shut down a good chunk of his abilities, and along with it the ability to destroy them, to be present with all of them and talk with them. The goddess in question, Luraisa, a goddess of chaotic instability, had found a certain level of love for a physical being from one of her worlds, a young demon girl who had held some promise. Her name lost along with her life, Ragia had used the last moments of her chaos devouring that world and its followers to restitch and restore the body before pouring some of her power into it. Most of the Pantheon had relations amongst themselves or with followers, but their followers, but all tries to continue their lines had failed. So with the success of Luraisa with Checkers, many questions abounded, such as if Checkers should be allowed to live as well as Luraisa. Among these fights continued some demands for her death and others demands for Luraisa's destruction. Pantheon finally spoke up, his word being law among them. He replied to the events. We may question her methods and her reasons, but the fact of the matter is this child is one of us now. Luraisa, you are to stay awake and train her and give her adequate resources to take hold of a world of her creation. If that fails, keep her here and I'll train her. That said, you are not allowed to dream once during this time. She is your responsibility. With that judgment settled, Luraisa had begun to raise her, keeping her from seeing everything, blindly hoping she would easily be controlled and molded by her harsh teachings. Though that would prove to be difficult, as whenever she was pulled away, Checkers made it her mission to explore things her mother was leaving out. She even saw Pantheon one of those days and proceeded to ask, despite her fears, what dreams are like. This would be Luraisa's first mistake, keeping herself busy when she got infuriated with dealing with Checkers. Pantheon was surprised to see her after all that time, and wondered what she had been taught. As he didn't see her chaos god mother in sight, he brought her up to the library that held every single one of their world's histories. He implored her to pick one to read, and that he would be there if she had any questions. He noticed her run over multiple times, and answered each of her questions politely, finding her questions intriguing at best. Though the question she asked last truly cemented her future. Grandpa Pantheon, why do you enjoy the destruction of the worlds you build? Are those creatures meaningless to you? Pantheon took a moment to answer before he said, the beings have meaning to me. That's why I don't dream anymore. Though I can't say if the others are just like a clean slate or not. People and beings outside of our dreams exist. That said, that is because of them finding meaning beyond death. With an almost intrinsic value that is even beyond us. Which has made me wonder one thing. If we aren't the true gods, then what is? I'm sorry if my answer isn't satisfactory, but I don't believe my children see the same value as you and I do. The words rattled in her brain every day after, and between training with Iriesia and interacting with the 10 other Eldritch gods and multiple abominations, she had been reading many of those world's histories, as many of those world's histories as possible. She had even been trying to convince Ethet, the book writer and keeper, to make it so her rituals avoided death. These constant interactions and fights with her mother had caused an abusive rift between them. So much so, in fact, that when she tried to warn the world her mother had created to turn away from her, that her mother snapped. She injured her on their shared plane, and in front of the world she cultivated, and had destroyed. When she was finished with it, she locked her away and had planned to hold a meeting amongst the others to decide her fate. She had even bought herself a little bit of time to keep Pantheon asleep so that he couldn't defend her. Although some had some problem with what she did, others, the more loud half, called for Checkers' banishment. Without his aid in the decision, they did. They banished her to a world where she could not retain her immortality nor all of her powers. Luraisa promised her death. She wasn't banished alone, though, as her guard Ethet. Oh, I did have two separate characters, Argent and Ethet. Okay. Don't mind me, guys. I'm just going through my notes. As her guard Ethet and her pet, a false cat named Yoko, were banished for trying to stand up to them. So the three of them with lesser powers, and with a need to prepare to navigate the world they were tossed into. Checker's powers include heightened speed, strength, and agility, light manipulation allowing for her to obscure herself from view and form weapons only she can wield, a barbed tail that can be used as a weapon, and claws on both her fingers and feet. Wisp Flame, the abilities Wisp Flame and All Voice. Wisp Flame is an ability that allows the user to create constructs out of flame that can be have very tangible uses and feeling. The only thing is that the user can only use them sparingly, as it can wipe them out physically from overuse and even can kill them. All Voice is an ability that gives the user the ability to read, write, or speak a language once it is heard, or at least seen once. The user has to try to understand and focus on that said language in order to learn it, and the user can't use it on multiple languages at once during interactions. There is also no guarantee that it can be used to avoid learning said language again, especially if one does not practice with said language. Checker's family and relations include Luraisa, her mother, the goddess of chaotic instability, Pantheon, the creator god, her grandfather, Iriesia, her grandmother and the guardian of the Pantheon, as well as a guardian goddess, Orthoroar, her uncle, a god of the unknown, Ragia, an aunt, a goddess of endless war, Etherim, her adoptive father, a god of waters and spatial voids, Embria, the goddess of flame, destructive outcomes, and pestilence, Ursus, her uncle, a god of nature, love, and family, Sylfi, her aunt, a goddess of the air, fortune, and peace, Libran, her uncle, a god of equilibrium, Cirillia, her aunt and cousin, a goddess of time and the child of Ursus and Sil-fy, Argon, her uncle and cousin, a god of space and torment, and is the child of Luraisa and Etherim, Ethet, Allursia's or Checker's guard, the being in charge of the library and her dearest friend, and Allursia's pet Yoko, a false cat and an unofficial guardian over her. With that being said, I'm going to quickly explain Ethet and Yoko in the next clip. Ethet and Yoko. So we're going to start with Ethet. Ethet was, I guess when I wrote the backstory, I forgot that I had created Argent. So I'm going to make the assumption that Ethet is Argent's child as well, because he's in charge of the library as well. Ethet seemed to always draw really close to Allursia, or Checkers, which is what she's going to be named for a majority of the series. And being that he was constantly trying to be close with her, I'm going with the idea that Ethet became her guard because of the fact that there were specific characters or specific people within the Pantheon as a whole that weren't happy with the fact that Checkers had been created or born, and those were also the people who volleyed for her banishment when her mother decided to banish her. Ethet tries to keep a very even-keeled, almost proper personality, but deep down he's very much not proper, and part of that does have to do with him being defensive over Checkers. He honestly views her kind of like a little sister, as well as his reason for being, and so they're very close, but there's like kind of like this balancing act because of the fact that he had been friends with her for so long. As well, before becoming her guard and basically being in charge of looking out for her. I think that's all I really got on Ethet so far. As far as Yoko. Yoko is a false cat, and I briefly said that she is her pet. Yoko is, as I said, a false cat. They're an eldritch being that are often taken in as pets by other eldritch beings and abominations, at least in my canon, where they are monsters beyond comprehension. They are often seen, they look like cats from a distance, but they don't have a distinctive separate nose or anything, and there's just a slight difference in coloration on the face to indicate where their nose is. Instead of ears, they have horns, and they usually have a set of insectian type wings on their back. In the case of Yoko, it's sort of like, looks like 3 feathers, but they almost look like insect wings or fly wings or dragonfly wings that are all connected together and kind of merge into the back. All of the false cats as well seem to have multiple sets of teeth and can turn into something far more monstrous, and each one is different, whether that be in their coloration or if they have a secondary tail or whatever, and it depends on each individual false cat. So yeah, that's Yoko. Yoko is actually pretty laid back as far as false cats, and is probably one of the more tame ones, actually taking the form of an actual cat when they are banished to this new world and reality as her pet, and is more than willing to take on that form. She would be registered more as a demon as far as the world that they end up being thrown into, and the same thing goes for Luraisa. Same goes for Checkers and Ethet. Now, I'm just going to briefly kind of sum up. I've already brought up the fact that Checkers got banished to the world that she's in. And my idea or my premise for the overall story with Checkers and her friends is that they are learning to navigate this world that they have been tossed into. They're learning to adapt to it and deal with the things that they're doing as they come to them. However, there's always that looming view of multiple of the Eldritch gods of the Pantheon coming to that world trying to destroy it, but they do not have a full-on hold. So the series is going to be repeated attempts for a while of specific Eldritch abomination gods trying to destroy this basically main world. And in my idea is that they're not, as I've kind of briefly touched on in the backstory, fully really gods. They're more really, really powerful demons, at least from the perspective of this world. And they are, in fact, not able to touch this world because there is a higher power that looks after this world, and this world is the one true world out of all the multiple nightmare worlds that have been created. With that said, I realize that my names have something to be desired for my abominations, basically. So I give free rein to people to change names or help me with creating new ones for the Eldritch abominations that are supposed to show up in this storyline. So I am fully aware that they're kind of at the moment just gibberish names. I didn't really look into languages to try to figure out how to name certain characters. I mean, Yoko is a name that I've just been enjoying a lot of lately. So in a few minutes more, you will get to see a list of all the names and their pronunciations and the gods that they're associated with. And that'll be scrolling down on the screen. I will also leave that in the description below for you guys to look at, figure out the pronunciations, and tell me what your thoughts are, or if you have any opinions or ideas for renames for characters, including Ethet and Yoko, because Yoko, I mainly got that name from Laszlo. And if you don't know what episode of Camp Laszlo it is, that's fine, I don't expect you to. We have the Boomerang app in my house, and we rewatch the episodes a lot, and it's just been stuck in my brain because of that. So with that said, I'll let you go ahead and watch the rest of the speed page, and in a few minutes you should see the list of the Eldritch abominations of the Pantheon scroll by on the screen. I'll see you guys at the end of the video. Thank you so much for tuning in with me, Tesla Cats. I am sorry for the length of this video and the level of insanity. I hope you enjoyed the insanity and the creativity and one of the too many, the ideas that flow around in my brain every day. I hope you enjoyed the entirety of the video, and I'll see you Tesla Cats in the next one. Bye for now. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you're interested in these videos. Bye!